Hi everybody. I would like to talk to you about Group It 2, 3, and 4 and what you are doing. Um, there's a possibility that this assignment seems more complicated than I actually believe that it is. So let me see if I can explain. Across Group It 2, 3, and 4, you and your group mates are going to create a technology integrated unit plan using the Understanding by Design framework. In Group It 2, you and your group will fill out the first third of the Understanding by Design template, which is called Stage 1. It's in Stage 1 that you talk about desired results. You figure out what your established goals are, your standards, what are the program objectives, and in our, what we're very interested in the Georgia performance standards. That those would go there. What are some essential questions that this plan can ask? What do you want students to understand, and what do you want students to know, and what do you want them to be able to do? That's what you need to do in the Group It 2 phase of making this plan. Then in Group It 3, you're going to come back to the same plan that you're building with your group mates, and you want to figure out assessment evidence. What kinds of pieces of evidence, what kinds of performances and products can I get my students to do that will allow me to gauge whether or not they've learned? So Stage 2 is all about assessment. You figure out what assessments need to be in place with this unit plan. Okay, that's what you do in Group It. That'll be in the Group It 3. Finally, in Group It 4, you're going to work on the last piece of the plan, Stage 3, the learning plan. And that, excuse me, I've been trying not to talk much for the past week because I have this terrible cough. But that's why I haven't seen any videos. So learning activities. What learning experiences and instruction will enable students to achieve the desired results? So this one deals with the actual, what we normally think of as sort of the procedures of a lesson plan. What are you going to have the students do? What are you going to use? How are you going to keep it interesting? How are you going to make sure that you hold their interest throughout, tailor to different needs, etc. So there's a few considerations in Stage 3. You do Stage 3 during Group It 4. So from Group It 2, 3, and 4, these last three Group Its, you're going to do Stage 1, 2, and 3 of a single unit plan with your group mates. Okay? Now, for the confusing part, I think that makes sense. Well, let me say a few more things before I get to the confusing part. You're going to do this Group It on a single page. It's a single plan that you're building. You have a single wiki page. You don't have to go bop around to a different page for each Group It phase. You're going to do it all on one wiki page. You have one discussion tab attached to that page. That's where you're going to be doing discussions. That's kind of where some of the work's going to be done. Before you put your work, before your group has decided what goes on that page, you're going to want to go answer some questions in the discussion tab. I've posted prompting questions, and I will post them throughout each stage, each Group It assignment. And I may not post all of them at the beginning of like the 2-week period. Like here we're in the beginning of Group It 2. I'm not going to post all the questions on the very first day. Why? Because somebody's going to go in and try to answer all of them at once. But there's actually certain stages we have to go through in Group It 2. So I'm not going to post them all at once. I'll post one of them in the very beginning, and then I'll post the remaining 4 or 5 questions, about 5 days in. I think it's less confusing that way. Okay, so here's the confusing part. You ready? You are allowed to use a plan that already exists on the web as the foundation, as the basis, the inspiration for the plan that you create with your group mates. And that's one of the things that you do in Group It 2, is you figure out what plan are we going to use. Now, if any group wants to build from the ground up and completely disregard plans online that already exist, that is completely fine with me. I just think that you have a lot more work to do if you're going to do that. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's harder to transform a plan. I personally believe that there's great value in taking plans that already exist and, you know, reading them critically and then deciding, okay, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to adjust this, I'm going to remove this, I'm going to add, you know, something else. You know, I'm going to do it. I'm going to teach this plan in a way that suits me as a teacher and suits my students and helps to meet the objectives that the state of Georgia would like for me to meet with my students. So a lot of the point is not so much that you guys build a plan from the ground up, but rather that you and your group mates actually talk about lesson planning, unit planning. You talk about the kinds of decisions that are being made as you build this plan. Okay, so those discussions, the discussion board attached to the planning page is very important. That's where a lot of your grade is going to come from. So it's not just, is a plan there? You know, that's actually almost less of interest in a way to me because I already know a plan exists. I'm not here to get the end product quite so much. I mean, the end product is important because it's a result of your discussions, but I'm also very interested in your discussions that you have. So again, I will post questions that I want you to respond to on the discussion board attached to your page. You'll kind of go through those discussion questions. You're not talking to me so much as you are to your group mates. I'll start them off with my question, but you guys need to really talk to each other to figure out what you want to do. And I encourage you to be creative, have fun. You know, if I were to actually pick the plan, if I were to say, here's the plan I want you to transform, well, guess what? Every single group would do something different. So don't be afraid to just, you know, try something creative, something interesting. Please don't just take a plan that already exists and just translate it into UPD. I want to see evidence that you are thinking about it and you're trying to make it better. Okay? So maybe don't get the best plan in the world when you pick one on. No, I think it's good to pick a good plan. There's nothing wrong with going and finding a spectacular plan, but I think any plan can be made better. So I hope that explains kind of just a big picture what you're doing. You know, you're building a single unit plan with your group mates across the 3 remaining GroupITs assignments. You're doing it in the Understanding by Design framework. You are allowed to use a plan that exists and transform it into a plan for your group, for your students, your audience, your teaching style here in the state of Georgia. Let me know if you have any questions about this. All right.